welcome back to another episode. I'm back with Wes. We're going to discuss the rest of the new codex in terms of just the Harlequins. We're not going to go into the Eldari, but we left it off last time. Because it was getting a little bit long. Where did we end up in the last one?
Yeah, so we finished up in the pivotal roles, didn't we? Discussed those, and we're just about to, I think, get into starting talking about warlord traits and relics, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. So today we're going to look through some of those and maybe a couple of combinations of how you can look at the pivotal roles, the warlord traits, the relics, and maybe a strat or two in combination. Okay?
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
So should we start off with the warlord traits?
Yeah, let's get started on those.
Oh, well, there's only a few here to go with.
Yeah.
So,
so really not that many. So we did do the Sadeth ones last time, right? So we've got like the ones for light, dark, and twilight. So you guys have already sort of heard those ones, but let's have a look at the other ones, the more generic ones that anyone can take.
Yeah, so the Favoured of Segrak, or
Mm-hmm.
I never really saw. I say Segrak, sometimes I say Kegrak.
I say Kragorak. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know. Whichever.
Favor of the Laughing God. Should we get that?
Yeah.
Once per turn, when you make a hit roll, wound roll, or saving throw for this warlord, after making that roll, you can treat this result as an unmodified roll of a 6 instead.
Yeah. It's pretty tasty, particularly in one particular combination. So, we looked at the pivotal rolls last time when we were looking at the one for the Death Jester, and one of those is obviously on an unmodified 6. You get 3 additional hits. So if we can give that, which we can through a stratagem, that is probably one of the best combos that you can make with it. Of course, you could do it on a Troop Master as well if you really so wish but I would say that's probably the best combination we've got with that one, right?
Yeah, and there's also the Shuriken strat that you can stack with that as well, but we'll talk about that a bit later. So this one only gets better when you stick this on the Death Jester. Yeah, exactly. 4 automatic hits before you even begin. That's pretty good.
Oh, it's phenomenal. I mean, this is the one that I've been looking at and going like, yes, my super strong Death Jester is still like for on a Troop Master. Honestly, I don't think this one's the best one, particularly given the other options that we have.
Yeah, because it's nice because it says it treats as an unmodified roll of a 6 as well, so that's the key one there as well.
Yeah, and it's after the roll as well, so you get that one that you're obviously not looking for when you've got your 3 shots, and you just turn that one into a 6. So it's pretty nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Grand. So the next one is Fractal Storm. Each time an attack is made against the warlord, your opponent cannot re-roll the hit, the wound, or the damage roll for that attack.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. Yeah, this is one that I think on your warlord, particularly with when you're trying to guard against things like assassinate and all the rest of it, this is actually a really nice little defensive buff.
Yeah,
I think it's very good.
Yeah, it's not the obvious pick of the 3, but I think it's a really defensive one, especially when you're trying to keep your warlord alive.
Absolutely.
And the next one is a Foot in the Future. Each time the warlord advances, do not make an advance roll. Instead, until the end of the movement phase, add D3 plus 3 to the move characteristic of this warlord. That's pretty nice by itself.
Yeah.
But there's more.
But
each time your warlord makes a charge with this each time you make a charge roll with this warlord, you can add 6 to the results.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like almost auto charging, isn't it? Really? I mean, if you don't make the charge with that, then you're doing something wrong. Like really, particularly
even
with the
if
position.
You roll 2 ones,
yeah,
that's an 8-inch charge you've got here.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the thing to note with this as well, you can only declare a charge if you're within 12 inches of that unit anyway.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about this is that if you're going to roll probably average of 7, 13 inches, you can still go that 13 inches and get round into places. It's really nice.
And if you combo it with things like Twilight, where you've got your additional pile-in moves and your consolidations after that, we are looking at an enormous amount of movement, an extra basically free movement for a Troop Master. You can get him exactly where he needs to be, and you no longer need to do things like in the previous book with Sky Strider or whatever it was, where disembark after transport. You just hide him behind a building and then off you run.
Off you go. Yeah. I love that. That's the one I go for on my warlord. So. Cool. So that's the warlord traits then. We'll
that's it.
You've got 3 over there. You've got 6 in total, and actually, although we only got a few, they're all good. So I don't think there's anything to be upset about with those. Okay, so we have 6 additional relics that we can choose from, which is quite nice.
Yep.
The first one is the storied sword, and many stories will be told about this sword, that's for sure. Harlequin's model with the Eldari power sword only. This relic replaces the Eldari power sword and has the following profile. Storied sword, melee, it's a +2 strength, it's -3, and a flat 2 damage, which overall is really nice. It's essentially a strength 5 power sword, which is really nice. Abilities, each time an attack is made with this weapon, the attack automatically hits the target.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, I know we hit on a 2+, but there's so many times that you just see that that one roll where you're like, yes, my troop master's going to kill everything, and there's like 3 1s in there, and you're like, no. So it's just, do away with that. Just auto hit. Done.
Auto hit. Done. So you just go straight to the wound roll. I like it.
Exactly. Yeah. I particularly like it when coupled with the always wound on a 2+ pivotal roll, because then it's like, well, you're auto hitting and you're wounding everything other monsters and vehicles on a 2+. So it's like, that's it's already reducing a huge amount of the variable in terms of whether or not you're going to do that damage.
Yeah. So just you could potentially have 6 attacks just rolling 2s to wound.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or 7 if you choose Twilight, which is what I did the other day. It was fun.
And you, with the light as well, you can stack that as well. I think, and get an additional.
Of course, the strength and the attack. Yeah, if you choose that warlord trait, right?
Cool. So the next one then is the suit of hidden knives. Bit of a change from last time. Harlequin's model only. At the end of the fight phase, the bearer can make 3 additional melee attacks. These attacks cannot target Titanic units. That's a shame. When resolving these attacks, each time a hit is scored, the target suffers 3 mortal wounds, and the attack sequence ends.
That's pretty tasty.
Yeah, just again, you're hitting on 2s most of the time, so 2s doing some extra mortal wounds. Yeah, that's going to finish off a character, or a couple extra wounds on the unit. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, I see it a little bit like the old Darkness Bite. It's like, you know what? Just have some mortal wounds. Just because, right? I mean, it's a nice one. I do like it. I haven't used it yet, but I do like it.
Yeah, it's not a huge number of mortal wounds, but it's like we said before, it's an aggregation of mortal wounds in this book.
Yeah,
there's quite a lot. Next one's Crescendo, the Harlequin's model with a shuriken pistol only. The relic replaces the shuriken pistol and has the following profile: Crescendo, range 12 inches, pistol 6, is strength 4, -3, flat 2 damage.
When I first heard this one, I was a bit underwhelmed, but now when I think about it, particularly if you are going light, I mean, you're not really, you have got the melee bonuses anyway. If you choose the warlord trait, you're doing a lot of damage if you give him an upgrade like a caress or a kiss anyway, and then for free essentially, but obviously using one of your relic slots and so one of your CPs or not, depending on how you're playing it. There's a lot of extra damage that you can potentially do with that one pistol, and this is just a shuriken pistol. It's not. Yeah, this isn't some like massive upgrade or point sink, and you're doing 6 additional attacks essentially at the same profile as a Harlequin's weapon now, which is not bad.
Yeah, Harlequin's weapon with a -3 rather than 2. So it's a 2 damage power sword if you want to look at another way that you're hitting on 2s with. It's so I don't normally like pistol weapons in the relics, but this is quite cool one, I think, actually. And it's one I probably wouldn't use all the time, but just to giggles and now and again, I might just run with it just to mess my opponent around.
I've been thinking about it too. I've been thinking about like just running, if I'm running 2 troop masters, having one kind of a bit more melee focused and one in lights, just running around with a pistol, just
going drive-bys.
Exactly, yeah. So particularly if you do combo that with some of the movements like based warlord traits and things like this, it's actually, you've got this very, very like crazy pistol wielding troop master running around and actually doing quite a lot of damage. I think it's not bad actually.
Yeah, there's actually a Harlequin's audio book. It's one of the short story ones that I listened to, and audio drama rather. And I think the Red Swan is the troop master of that. I can imagine him doing it from just driving by and just being quite arrogantly just popping off a load of 1K as he's driving by.
Yeah. No, it's I think it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It hasn't been my takeaway choice so far, but yeah, I definitely want to test it out at some point.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one, Segrax Rose. It's still hanging around. This time it's Harlequin's Kiss only. The relic replaces a Harlequin's Kiss and has the following profile. Segrax Rose, it's +2 strength, -2 AP, and a flat 3 damage. Each time the attack is made with this weapon, you can reroll the wound roll. The bearer has the Harlequin's Kiss keyword.
It is pretty good. I really like this one when you mix it with, is it Queen of Shards, where you then have, like, on 5-ups you ignore the invulnerable saves, and that's kind of how I've been building a second Troop Master at the moment, is Kagorix Rose, Queen of Shards, you know, just also to do a bit of extra damage. And that reroll is basically giving back the idea of Choreographer of War from the old one. It makes them much more reliable against a lot of different things. And now the flat 3 damage isn't just limited to infantry, right? So it's pretty good.
Yeah, and if I can't remember rightly, I think it was previously strength 4 as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so
it used to be kind of the
strength.
default. It was like the default take on the Solitaire for a while, just because you got the extra attacks out of it, like in 8th edition. And it was even then, it was still just like, it depends on what target you're looking at. You know, there were 3 wound infantry models, but they were fairly few and far between. I mean, it's becoming more and more, but now just having the general flat 3 without having that limitation is actually a really nice one. And he just beats up everything if you launch him at the right target.
So I was initially running this with the wound on the 2, but I've switched to ignoring vulnerable saves on the 5+. So I really like it. It's a really good weapon. So I've got 3 Troop Masters that I've made up. I've got a dark, a twilight, and a light. My light one has. So
yeah.
Cool. So the next one is the Star Miss Raymond. Harlequin's model only. Each time an attack is made against the bearer, that attack's hit roll, wound roll cannot be re-rolled. Once per battle in your command phase, you can declare that this bearer will mimic Elios. If you do so until the start of the next command phase, the bearer has a 3+ invuln.
It's okay. It's not my favorite. The no rerolls thing we're seeing quite commonly through the book, and so there are so many ways of doing that without using the relic slot that I just feel like there are other choices that are better. The 3-up just in one phase. One battle. Yeah, it's okay. I honestly think, like, I'm just looking at it and going, why wouldn't I just use Fractal Storm then instead? You know, personally.
Fractal Storm. I think Fractal Storm's only for troops, though, isn't it?
Troop Masters, is it? Or
oh no, sorry, I was thinking something else. No,
I'm thinking about the Warlord trait. So just as we were discussing before, can't re-roll things. I'm just thinking, if you have access to that Warlord trait, why would you bother using a relic slot when there are other options to be able to give you that? I mean, you could obviously do both, and then you've got incredibly durable characters, which is a nice bonus, particularly if you're playing, you know, looking at trying to be as defensive as possible and trying to mitigate that damage. But it wouldn't be necessarily my pick.
No, I agree. It's probably the weaker ones of the group, but it is a reliable way to get a 3+ invuln though for your character if you wanted to go for that. But I think the offensive options are probably better in this section.
I agree.
Okay, so next one's the Laughing God's Eye. Harlequin's model only. The bearer has the following ability: the Laughing God's Eye. While friendly Harlequins units within 6 of this model, each time a model in that unit loses a wound as a result of a mortal wound, roll 1d6. On a 5+, that wound is not lost.
Yeah, it gives us actually a really good defensive bonus against something that we do struggle with. I'm considering using this one actually in my next game because of this, because we struggle with things like mortal wounds. So if you know that you're going to a tournament and you've got opponents like, I don't know, Thousand Suns or Grey Knights or any of these sort of armies that can spam mortal wounds and smites and all these kind of things, it's definitely worth looking into. I mean, I don't know. What are you thinking?
Yeah, same really. Because if I was going to go against Harlequins, because we've got all these different rerolls and no rerolls and invulnerable saves, the most reliable way to kill us is through mortal wounds. So having something there available for you to give you some mortal wound damage, especially as the meta shifts as well if something becomes prevalent with lots of mortal wound spam, then actually that could be quite useful.
Well, absolutely. I mean, Nick from Beer and Back Reps, he's telling me about his Necron list. I think it's 30 death marks with, I think it's Mephrit or something. He's talking about the amount of mortal wounds that can do, and then just as many Satan as he can fit in 3 patrols. And he was saying like the whole list together does something like 20 to 30 mortal wounds a turn on average. And I was like, that is an insane amount. So I was just looking at that and going, that's exactly the kind of counter to Harlequins. That could actually nowadays be become quite maybe even a list that ends up scoring quite highly, because I do feel like we're going to be seeing quite a lot more in the competitive field. So yes, this is a way of mitigating that a bit.
Yeah, so there you go. That's the additional relics you get. They're open to everyone. I personally think on the whole we've done quite well out of all those. There's no real stinkers. In fact, most of them are pretty good. So.
Yeah, I'd say that at the moment I am spending all 3 CP, all CP basically on that. Like, so my warlord trait upgrades and the all of it. At the moment, my current list is starting on 4 CP, so that's really quite low. Yeah, so and that is because I am kitting out a lot of relics, and I do have extra characters and so I've had to add a patrol detachment and all these kind of things, and then the webway gate, which is also a fortification detachment. So I'm starting on 4 at the moment, but that's why I'm going with the Twilight, so that I can at least get some access to CP rerolls as well.
That is definitely going big.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's all those done. Do you want to talk some strats?
Yeah, let's go through them. Let's, as a caveat, Wes and I, we both talked about this one, and they are powerful. A lot of these strats are powerful, but this was the area that it kind of felt like we lost a lot of the flavor that we used to have in the previous codex. So we have powerful stratagems, absolutely we do, and we have access to very powerful stratagems, but if we're looking at it in comparison to the last one, we had all these janky, weird movement-based things of just us popping up all over the board. It was a little bit disappointing, I found, anyway. And we did sort of discuss that a little bit. Wes, have you changed your mind on that one, or you still sort of feel the same?
Yeah, so I think the army is simpler to play. I think it's an overall base power higher. It's a simpler army for people to get into. The downside of that is, we've kind of lost some of the tricks in us a little bit.
Yeah, there are a couple. Yeah, there are a couple, definitely. So let's go through and see what we've got here anyway first.
Cool. So we're not going to go through these in order of the book. We're going to go through them in the order in which you'd use them during the game.
Yeah.
So things that you can use before the game. You've got Champions of the Eldari, which is a strat we share with the Eldar, with the Azurani, and it's essentially the giving the additional warlord traits.
Yeah. Which is great. That's where we get this favor of Kagorak on the DJ, because otherwise, if you have a troop master, he has to be a warlord. So this is the way in which we can do that.
And at 2,000 points, you can use this twice, so you can essentially have 3 warlord traits throughout your army.
Yep, that's pretty good.
And yeah, it's pretty good. And on the next show, I think we're going to actually look at different builds and stuff.
Yeah.
So this is a great chance for if people have come up with great builds that they think for troop master, the Shadow Seer, the Solitaire you can't build anything, but the Death Jester. For the 3 characters you can build, put down what you've got there, and we can discuss those next time. That'd be great.
Yeah, let us know. Put them down in the comments, because I mean, obviously Wes and I are just 2 people, and we can't think of every single possible combination. And you might have come up with one where you think this one is going to completely storm the meta. I absolutely need to share this one. Please do just put it straight down in the comments. Say, right, I love this, and this is why. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, it was good. So next one is the Treasures of the Eldari. Similar vein again, is it giving out extra relics, and you can use 2 of those per for 2,000 points. So again, that's 3 relics that you can choose. So it goes back to that previous comment. Webway Strike. This is an interesting one. Use the stratagem before the battle when you're declaring reserves and transports. If you're playing a mission that without the step, use the stratagem during deployment instead. If you spend 1 CP, you can set 1 Azurani, or skip that, so Harlequin's infantry or Harlequin's biker unit from your army in the webway instead of setting it up on the battlefield. If you spend 3 CPs, you can place 2 of the Harlequin's infantry or biker units in the webway instead. In the reinforcement step of one of your movement phases, you can set up any units in the webway anywhere on the battlefield that's more than 9 inches away from enemy models. You can only use this stratagem once.
Yeah. It's pretty much almost the same as it was before. But I think the improvements of the webway gate itself, because that actually reduces this down to 1 CP, right? Because it says rounding down in terms of fractions, and it would be 1.5. Rounding down is 1. So then you've got two units that you can put into the webway gate essentially for 1 CP, which is exactly what I'm about to do as well. So that big troop, you want that one in there, because why wouldn't you? I mean, they can't destroy the troop, and you might as well just take it out there, and you've got that entire area that you can then just go straight into engagement range with. I think without the gate, it's still potent. I did use it last time, but again, you've still got the same problems as you would have in any kind of situation where you're taking strategic reserves, really.
Yeah, it can be nice to because you still get the deep strike with this as well, so you can put the models down outside 9 inches for any model. So if you are playing some of the secondaries, it's a great way of getting a small unit or large unit of Harlequins anywhere on the board.
Yeah, into the deployment zone. Yeah, I mean, I did use this one last time as well. I used it on one big unit of 12 troop, I think, last time. So I just popped them in the back because he decided to move a lot further forward, and I was like, well, now I've definitely in your deployment zone, and oh, look at that, I've just taken an objective that I didn't have before. It's a useful one to have in your arsenal.
And I like it just for the psychological factor that people then have to factor in that you can be anywhere, and it's decision fatigue for the opponent, which I like.
Absolutely.
Without being fatigued enough by just talking to me in the first place.
Yeah.
Cool. Favored of the Laughing God is the next one. It's 1 CP. Use the stratagem after nominating a Harlequin's model, excluding named characters, not that we have any, to be a warlord. That model gains 1 additional warlord trait. This must be from the Harlequin's warlord trait table. Each warlord trait in your army must be unique. If randomly generated, reroll duplicate results. You can only use this stratagem once.
Yeah. Really, really nice as well.
Yeah. And this is what we're talking about again of when it comes into building your warlord and troop master. Having 2 warlord traits is great. So you have 2 warlord traits, a relic, and a pivotal role. You can really, really make this guy unique.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's tooled up to the max in some ways. Like, I mean, it's crazy how much extra movement and even damage mitigation and everything else that you can do. I mean, I particularly love this one even more than the other ones in some ways, because just being able to choose other characters with it, simply because then when I do take something like Player of Twilight for CP regen, that's not all he's doing, so it's like I can still make him tooled up to the max to fight in melee, or to run around shooting, or to increase his durability or his mobility, any of these things, on top of then being able to do that. So I think it's such a nice thing to be able to do with us.
Yeah, really interesting. I'm looking forward to the next one because I've actually I mentioned the last show, I've made a little table where you can kind of choose your own adventure for your troop master, and it's just there's so many options there. Yeah. Cool. So that's the ones before the battle. Next one is the start of the first battle round. Phantasm. Use a stratagem at the start of the first battle round. Before the first turn begins, select up to 3 Harlequins units from your army and redeploy them. If mission uses strategic reserves rules, any of those units can be placed in strategic reserve without spending any additional CPs.
Really nice, isn't it? That one as well.
Yeah, 3.
It's really nice. Yeah.
3 units for 2 CPs and stuff. For me, especially Harlequins, if you're deploying first, I kind of like to put some bait units down and make my opponent think I'm going that way. And this is the grand switch through that you get to do. And it also allows you to go quite aggressive as well. So you put your guys up on the line within charge range, and then it didn't get the first turn in the end. Let's put them a little bit safer, shall we?
Yeah, that's how I use it all the time. It's just like, I'm going to be here, and then it's like I'm going to assume that I'm going to get first turn, but if I don't get first turn, I can move all 3 of those particular units that I put up there, like way up back, and then you're going to have to come to me until the next turn. But yeah, really, really nice. Love it.
Next one's in the command phase. It's Hero's Path. Slight change to this one. Well, in fact, quite a bit of a change to this one. Use a stratagem.
Yeah, a very big change.
Command phase. Select one Troop Master model from your army that is on the battlefield and select one Death Chester or one Shadow Seer model from your army that is on the battlefield. Until the end of that turn, add 2 to the movements characteristic of the selected models. Each time a charge roll is made for any of the models, add 1 to the result.
So again, stacks very, very nicely with a few of the other movement shenanigans that we've been talking about. And I mean, just the amount of extra movement you can give a troop master is just amazing. I mean, he moves faster than a blitzing solitaire now.
Was that warlord trait as well that you can add 6 to your charge? So with this, it's 7, so you're automatically getting 9 inches.
Yeah. I mean, no one is safe from the troop master nowadays. No one is safe. This board is not big enough to hide anything from your troop master at this point. I mean, it's almost ridiculous.
I just love the imagery of it as well. It's this guy just like, say, guy could be a guy or girl, and like just pouncing through the air, somersaulting, flipping over whole troops, ending up on the other side, stabbing them from behind, and then piling into some other unit. Yeah,
no, it's brilliant.
Bow in between.
So absolutely, and a bit of cackling laughter overhead. But no, definitely, I think it's a really nice buff among a bunch of really nice buffs that you can do. So it's one of those that you're going to have to kind of weigh whether or not you need it at the time and what you're doing with it, right? But it can just make some things utterly ridiculous. But if you go, you know what, I really do need those extra 2 inches of movement and that extra inch of charging on top of everything I can already do, because I need this target gone, or I need to be able to clear out that objective, or I need to be able to do something like this. It's a nice buff to have if you can.
Yeah, it's nice to Shadow Seer as well to like keep up at times as well, especially if you're using these aura bubbles to reduce range or improve the resistance to damage and stuff as well. So it's really good.
Yeah.
But at the right moment. Okay, so the next ones are in the movement phase. Famed Retreat is either 1 or 2 CP. Use a stratagem in your movement phase when a Harlequins, a unit from your army, falls back. You can select that unit to be eligible to shoot this turn or eligible to clear a charge this turn, or both. If you select both, the stratagem costs 2 CP.
I mean, do we need it?
So the only difference...
It's good on Void Weavers.
So this is the only thing, because since 9th edition, vehicles can't fall back and shoot anymore, so it allows you to do that with a Void Weaver. If somebody tags you, it allows you to just jump out of combat and shoot with it.
Yeah, so it's incredibly useful if you are running that triple Void Weaver, which I imagine, I mean, most of you are probably listening to us and building as many of them as you can right now, because they are so good. At the moment, I haven't really been using them, particularly because it doesn't work into what I've got at the moment. I have to kind of choose, because I've magnetized them, either Star Weavers or Void Weavers, and currently I do need the transport capacity, so I'll be investing in those at some point soon.
Yeah, I think anybody I speak to right now is trying to build as many Void Weavers. I think I was chatting to Adam the other day, and he was like, I think Manny Shima's bought up all the stock of Void Weavers right now. So next we've got Prismatic Blur. A bit of a change on this one.
Yeah.
So use a stratagem in your movement phase when a Harlequin's infantry unit from your army advances more than 8 inches. Until the start of your next command phase, models in that unit have a 3+ invulnerable save.
Yeah, so no more doing it on bikes, basically, is what they're trying to avoid here. And I get that you wouldn't want to have 3+ save Void Weavers or something. Squadrons of 3+ invuln save, no reroll, -1 to hit Void Weavers might be a bit much.
They're doing all right on the whole, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah. So with this one, okay, it is an understandable change, but it does say just infantry unit, right? So I mean, you could do it technically on a character as well. Then you've got the same effect for a CP as you would have with that, with the, what was it? The Star Mist Raiment.
Yes.
Just for a term, it's good. 3+.
Yeah.
So it's not bad.
It's not bad, and I think most effective actually putting on the infantry is not bad at all, really, especially like large squads.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so next one is Virtuosos the Webways. It's had a bit of a change as well. It's 1 CP. Use a stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Select one Harlequin's unit from your army that is not within 1 inch of an enemy model. Remove it from the battlefield, and that unit is placed in strategic reserves.
Yeah, it's okay. You know?
Yeah.
It's
So
like
previously,
if you've sorry, yeah.
no, go for it.
I was just thinking, sort of, if you've got something going up the battlefield and you realise that actually you need something to be further back again, or whatever else for an objective, or just chuck it back into the Webway Gate or something. Like you can always emerge it from there.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Again, if you've got units around performing mission actions again, and you can just suck them back through, and they can pop out the Webway Gate as well. So I think the Webway Gate works really well for this. It gives you that centre board presence with this. Otherwise, they could just come on from the sides or the rear of the table, depending on the turn.
Luckily, I've nearly finished building my weird scratch build Webway Gate. So
yeah, it's looking cool.
I'll have that one on my channel soon.
Yeah, so I don't think it's as good as the last one, but it's still a good strat. The last one is phenomenal. Like, there's just no two ways about it. This is just a good strat as opposed to being a phenomenal strat.
Yeah.
So next one is Psychic Phase. Unparalleled Mastery. Use this. In fact, I've skipped one. Movement Phase. The enemy's movement phase. Segrex just use this stratagem in your opponent's movement phase. When an enemy's unit within engagement range of a Harlequin's infantry unit from your army falls back. After that enemy unit has finished that move, select one Harlequin's infantry unit from your army that was within engagement range of that enemy unit at the start of the phase. The selected unit can then consolidate up to 6 inches or shoot as if it were a shooting phase. If the selected unit shoots, you can shoot the unit that targeted. If it consolidates, so I've skipped the rest of it there. So essentially, it's 1 CP to do the shoot, and 2 CP to do the follow up and catch them before they run away.
Yeah, it's all right now. I mean, the thing is that once again, because of our limited range, it used to be the sort of thing that I liked using it on a big squad of bikes. It's like, oh, you want to try and fall back? Fine, you've got 6 haywire cannons basically to the face now. Yeah. But with the infantry one, it's like, is it worth it to shoot shuriken pistols and a couple of neurodisruptors? That's it.
Potentially, but very, very niche, I think.
Yeah, the consolidate one's all right. But...
I think the consolidate one's is the better one for me. It's sort of like a marine unit moves away from you, and especially with the Harlequins as well, you can kind of wrap around, so you can make it quite difficult for them to leave. Yeah. You can then consolidate that 6 inches and keep them in combat.
Yeah, it's basically also an amalgamation of what used to be Kigorak's chest, and then what was it called? There was another stratagem that came with White Dwarf where you could do the same thing. Curtain falls. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So next one, Psychic Phase. We've got Unparalleled Mastery. Use a stratagem at the start of your Psychic Phase. Select one Farseer, Shadowseer model from your army until that unit can attempt to manifest one additional psychic power this phase.
Yeah, it gives you the smite, or the smite. Basically, you can combine it with the other one, and then it might be more interesting because there's that's the more interesting one where it's like, you're spending 2 CP then, but looking at the next one, Wes.
The Multifaceted Mind. Use this stratagem in your psychic phase after attempting to perform a psychic action with a Shadowseer model from your army. That unit can attempt to manifest one psychic power that phase.
Yeah, so if you use both of them, you can basically use all of your powers and still complete the psychic action. Yeah. That's why I play the Player of Twilight now, is because that is almost what I'm using my CP for, to give me that secondary. Because I quite like mental interrogation if I've got 2 Shadowseers. Yeah. Because I can usually be within 24 inches of an enemy character, just do it, keep them alive for a while until I do decide to finally kill them off with my Death Jesters. And then, I'm still gaining those things without having to kind of sacrifice an entire very expensive Psyker for, basically an action, which, a standard infantry unit could perform an action. But here it makes those kind of secondaries a little bit more viable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think those two in combination are really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so next ones are in the shooting phase. Bladestorm. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase when an It's always got as Urani and Harlequin. So Harlequin's unit from your army is selected to shoot until the end of that phase. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack with a shuriken weapon, and a modified hit roll of a 6 scores 1 additional hit.
Yeah, so what were we saying about the death test in favour of Pigoric? So would you like to have, 5 hits per 6, basically? It's, I mean, obviously it's very, very rarely going to be 15 hits, but if you do get 15 hits with your 170-point character, that is, that is some tasty, tasty damage output from that.
Yes, it is.
Like mincemeat or pretty much anything. And then on top of that, if you are targeting things like big troops or something, or things that worry a little bit more about morale and causing every single thing that everything that you kill also counts as double towards morale. You're wiping units with this guy.
Yeah. Morale all of a sudden becomes a really useful tool.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's great. I think that combo is one that we are going to see competitively, just because it is a huge amount of damage output at fairly decent, if not moderate range, with a sniper. So it's a very good combo.
Yeah, I totally agree. So next one is Fire and Fade. There's no change in this one from what I can see from previous. So after you've shot, you can. In fact, no, I will read it because there is a change actually. Use this strategy in your shooting phase after making attacks with the Harlequin's units from your army. That unit can immediately make a normal move of up to 7 inches. Unless it's a Harlequin's unit, it cannot embark in the transport at the end of the move. Until the end of the turn, that unit is not eligible to declare a charge. Units with a battle focus ability, which is not us, cannot make battle focus moves. So this is quite an interesting one for us because it allows us to get back into transport.
Yeah. So with again, in combination with things like light, I think it's really good. Just because it tends to be your build is going to be more based around shooting if you are playing light, and so it's quite a nice one to have if you're going kind of like a little bit more like your old school soaring spike kind of lists.
Yeah.
Also, you've got some interesting ones as well, because you've got the capricious reflections, and so by the end of it, if you've got all these different ways of moving away from your opponent, you can completely get rid of a huge amount of melee potential from an army.
And if you find yourself in the middle of the wall there as well, if you can get close to a vehicle, it allows you to get inside that vehicle again as well, which is really useful. Which then in itself allows you then to catapult out of that because you're gaining that extra 3 inches. So in fact, if you think about it, you can move 7 inches up to the vehicle, get inside the vehicle, so that's 7 inches you gain then, and then you've got the width of the vehicle plus the extra 3 inches when you get out next turn, and then you move. It's a really good way of catapulting an infantry unit on the board if you need to.
Yeah, so that's nice. And particularly if you are playing a Star Weaver heavy list as well, obviously you're gonna want to keep this one in your back pocket most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Haywire charges. Use this strategy in your shooting phase. Harlequin's Haywire grenade unit from your army is selected to shoot. Select one model in that unit. That model can make a one attack that phase. This must target an enemy vehicle within 6 inches. If it does a hit, the vehicle suffers D3 mortal wounds and the attack sequence ends.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah. I mean, it's troop masters and troop that have Haywire grenades now, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So if you've got multiple small units of troop, running around the place, then you have your choice of what you want to target with it. It's one of those that you sort of think, I need to put those last couple of wounds on that vehicle in order to score whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
This is a nice way of potentially doing that. It's a bit
situational. A couple of wounds left. It's a way of getting it. It's a tool that's there, isn't it? I don't see
exactly
building whole strategies around it, but it's a tool for you to use.
Yeah.
Cool. So shooting phase, lightning fast reactions. Use a stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase when it has your only Harlequin's unit from your army, excluding monster units, is selected as target until the end of that phase. Each time an attack is made against that, subtract 1 from the attack's hit roll.
Yeah, so I mean, for us, it's basically the same as it always was. It's a nice way of maybe getting it back on the bikes because they'd lost it. And with other units as well, a big unit of troops and something, it's always going to be useful. It's nice to have, and it just again reduces a little bit of the damage coming in.
Yeah, I think on the bikes it's a good one. Like, so you've got a larger bike squad, that -1 coupled with the no rerolls, it can make a difference.
Yep.
Cool. So next one is the charge phase. Murderous Spectacle. Use this stratagem in your charge phase when a Harlequin's infantry unit from your army makes a charge move. Until the end of the turn, add 1 to the damage characteristic of melee weapons that the unit is equipped with, to a maximum of 3.
Yep. I like it.
Yep, really good.
I like it. It's kind of how it was before as well, but it is really, really good on something like a troop master or a big unit of troop. Because again, then you're talking about like the already pretty sizable amount of damage that someone is doing. Think of that storied sword, for example, on a Twilight troop master. Yeah. So you got your 7 also hits, you got your 2+, and then you got flat 3 damage on top of that.
Yeah.
There's not much you can't take out with this, really.
Yeah, especially when you think like Deathwing Terminators. I found these were really good against because you've got invulnerable saves, and if you're doing it with the dark as well, your caresses, kisses, and embraces are all going to be at -3 at that point, and you can use the caress to get rid of the invulnerable save, doing flat 3 damage. You're just going to murderate those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think it's a very, very powerful tool in our arsenal, really. And there are so many ways of reducing damage now in the game. So many things that are giving you the -1 damage, the -1 damage or something. This is a nice way of just being able to be like, nah, you know what? I still want my flat 2 damage, even if you've got that. Or whatever else you're doing there.
Yeah, it's really cool. Next ones are the charge phase ones. So dramatic entrance. Use a stratagem in your heroic intervention step of your opponent's charge phase. Select 1 Harlequin's infantry unit from your army. Until the end of that phase, that unit is eligible to perform a heroic intervention, and it can do so at 6 inches.
It's really nice. I really like this one. I think this is fantastic, just to kind of to bring in those things, basically to make sure that you're not going to be at a disadvantage in any fight. It's kind of similar to the Veiled Path one, isn't it? Because that used to be anything; it wasn't just infantry. But I think that's kind of where they took that idea from, and I think it's a really nice one to have.
Yeah, and it's not just any heroic intervention; it's 6 inches as well, which is quite a significant boost.
Yeah.
Okay, so look at the fight phase now. The Great Enemy. You'll be using this one not all the time, or not. Use this stratagem in your fight phase. When a Harlequin's unit from your army is selected to fight, until the end of that phase, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack that targets a Slaanesh unit, you can re-roll the hit roll and the wound roll.
You know what? I bet you when the Chaos Space Marines Codex finally releases, this is going to actually end up being like one of the most powerful stratagems in the game, because we're like, Emperor's Children, you might be the most powerful army in the game, but you will have the Slaanesh keyword. So I think that's going to be the point where we might actually see it used, and everyone's going to forget that they even have it to begin with, until everyone starts playing Emperor's Children or some kind of Slaanesh-based Chaos Marine list. Otherwise, nah.
No, I've been playing quite a lot of Warhammer for a long time, and I think I've only played a Slaanesh type army once. So yeah.
It's funny because I've considered making it a couple of times. I've considered making a Slaanesh-based Marine army. But
it's like I'm a Dark Angels player as well. It's like I've never played a Fallen army.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably about 5 in existence though. So it's like,
yeah. There we go. So next one is War Dancers. This is a mighty 3 CP. Use this strategy at the end of the fight phase. Select 1 Harlequin's troop unit from your army with engagement range of enemy units. That unit can fight again. You can only use this once per battle round.
Yeah. Which you're only ever going to do because obviously it is an extortionately expensive stratagem, but of course it's also incredibly powerful. So, if you really didn't quite get that thing dead, you can pop this one out and just say, well, now it is. That's basically it.
Yeah, and when you're fighting again as well, there's an opportunity for extra movement because you get to pile in and consolidate again. So, yeah, there's some really funky stuff that you can do with this as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've got figure out a time that I'm ever going to have 3 CP spare, given I might be starting on about 4 or 3. But yeah, it's a very powerful tool that can only really be used once per game, to be honest, I would say.
That's poor life choices. No price too steep. Use a stratagem in the fight phase when a Harlequin's character model from your army has already been selected to fight that phase is destroyed. Do not remove the model from play. It can fight after attacking model's unit has finished making attacks. If that model is a solitaire model or was destroyed by a chaos unit, until the end of the phase, add 1 to the model's attacks and strengths characteristics. After resolving the destroyed model's attacks, it is then removed.
Yeah, I think it's exactly the same as the before, wasn't it? I mean, or was it? Yeah, I think the only thing that they've taken away is that you couldn't fight and then die and then pop it. Because I think you used to be able to do that, whereas like you would charge, the attacks back would kill you, and then you just pop it anyway and just attack even again. So to drag them with you. So you can't do that anymore. But again, it's a nice one to have. I think particularly with the solitaire, because you're like, well, you know what? He is probably going to die at some point. And if it's to something in melee, they then they've made a bad decision, basically.
So situation quite useful. Torments of the Fiery Pit. Use this strategy in the fight phase when a Harlequin's character model, excluding solitaire, from your army that has lost any wounds is selected to fight until the end of the phase. Add 1 to the strength and attacks characteristic of that model.
Yeah, I wish they didn't have that caveat of it has to have taken a wound, but yeah, if you are in that situation again, it is a nice way of getting a little bit extra out of your characters.
Yeah, you're going to take a wound at some point, so it will be useful at some point. So Curtain Falls. Use the stratagem in the fight phase after Harlequin's infantry unit from your army is finished making its attacks, but before it makes consolidation move. Instead of consolidating the model, if every unit in that unit is within 6 inches of a friendly Sadath transport model, that unit can embark within that transport model as if it were the movement phase, even if that unit had disembarked that turn, provided the transport model has enough transport capacity for the whole unit to embark.
So this one, I think, this one again, it's in combination with Capricious Reflections. I think Tom was sort of saying this is quite a decent one where you've got your transport close enough, you basically just move away and then move again and then try and jump back on. It's not what it was. It used to be probably my go-to stratagem, particularly with bikes. It was like such an amazing stratagem before. Now it's okay to me.
It has received a bit of a knock, but still pretty useful at some points.
Oh, absolutely. Again, in the right situation, it can really be game changing if you use it correctly. It's just not quite as flexible as it used to be in terms of its usage.
No, exactly. Kiss of Death. Use a stratagem in the fight phase when a Harlequin's Kiss unit is selected to fight until the fight is resolved. Each time a model within that unit makes a melee attack, and a modified wound roll of 6 inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to any normal damage, and you can do that up to a maximum of 6.
I think we did discuss the weapons ones, didn't we, last time?
We did,
So we did look at those. So kisses,
kiss
6s,
and embrace.
Wounds. Embraces 4 up, basically like a Hammer of Wrath kind of style mortal wound, and then the ignore invulnerable saves on the caress, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. They all have their uses, don't they? They're all pretty good.
Yeah.
Fight phase. The enemy's fighting phase, you can use lightning fast reflexes again. The final one we're going to talk about, though, is the morale phase, and that's mocking laughter. So we've already talked about. So we've already talked about like how many crazy ass wounds that a death jester can do on a unit. And how that affects the morale. Well, this one makes that better. So mocking laughter, it's 1 CP. Use the stratagem at the start of the morale phase. Select 1 enemy unit within 12 of the Death Jester model from your army until the end of that phase. First point, your opponent can not select that unit for Insane Bravery stratagem, nor can they use a rule that would let them re-roll any morale test for that unit. If a morale test is taken for that unit is failed, any action that is performing immediately fails.
I think that is the hidden bit. Is that last bit? It's like, you what? Like,
Yeah.
so given that actually actions have become such an integral part of scoring in the game for many, many players, be able to be like, nope.
Yeah.
And then when you combine that with some of the things like in Dark, with taking away obsec and potentially taking away auras, and then also stopping units from being able to perform actions, and this is starting to add up to some very, very disruptive stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. I think it's one of those that I kind of looked at it at the beginning and went, and then I thought about it again. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good, actually.
It's going to be one of those moments where your opponent goes, "You what, mate?"
Yeah. Can I read that?
Yeah. Can you pass me your book?
Yeah. No, I've had that so many times as well. I mean, all through 8th edition, it was like, you can do what? No, let me have a look at your code. Yeah, it is genuinely what I can do. I know that it seems ridiculous,
most
but I can.
Harlequin players get used to that.
Yeah.
Can I read your book? Like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Can I read your book, not give it back, and maybe steal your army? Like, I mean, most people, like, you are going to see them more competitively now. Harlequins, absolutely. I mean, for a lot of the reasons that we've been discussing, they are a very potent army with not a huge amount of variation still. We still have no new models, but what you can do with every single little Harlequin in your army is quite impressive, I would say.
Yeah, people completely underestimate them because they look really poncy, but they put out some attacks.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've had 2 games so far with the new rules, and I've got another one tomorrow, so we'll see how that one goes. But honestly, I don't think I've ever walked into games with so much confidence as I have now. It's like, before it was like, you know what, it could go either way. Now I'm like, you know what, against that list, are you sure you don't want me to sort of tell you how to play against me? Because otherwise this is going to be very one-sided. Yeah, it's very, very powerful, this book.
Yeah. Should we talk about the final section?
Yeah, let's go over that.
Do the secondaries. So no mercy, no respite. A deadly performance. Progressive objective. At the end of your turning point, score 3 victory points if 2 or more of the following conditions apply. First one, a Harlequin's unit from your army controls an objective marker that you did not control at the start of the turn. Next one is a Harlequin unit from your army is wholly within your opponent's deployment zone. And the final one is 2 or more enemy. Sorry, the next one is 2 or more enemy units. Yeah, there's more. Enemy units were destroyed by an attack made with a ranged weapon from a Harlequin's model from the army during the turn. 3 or more enemy units were destroyed by an attack made by a melee weapon by your Harlequin's model in your army during this turn.
Yeah, it's a really good one for us. I really like the secondary.
It's just called playing the game, is it? As a Harlequin player.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It rewards you for doing what you do anyway. It's like, it's kind of the perfect like secondary for us. It's because it's like, what do you want to do? Well, I want to take an objective. That's in there. What else do you want to do? I'm probably going to be in my deployments, the deployments of my opponent. That's in there too. What else am I doing? I'm killing stuff. Well, that's in there too. It's great. Like, it's just like, well, I'm not forced or hamstringed by the secondary itself. I'm actually just playing the game.
Yeah, and you have to score 2 of those, so to get those 3 points, which is really good.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay, battlefield supremacy. Take your places. Stand by, this is quite a long one, this one. If you select the secondary objective after both sides have finished deploying, you must set up 1 additional objective marker in your opponent's deployment zone. Then your opponent must set up 1 additional objective in your deployment zone and 1 additional objective marker within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield. These objective markers cannot be set up within 9 inches of each other, within 6 inches of the battlefield edge, or within 1 inch of another objective marker. These take your place objective markers represent the positions that must be taken by a Harlequin's unit for their performance. Do not count as objective markers for any rules purposes other than this secondary objective. At the end of the turn, you score 2 victory points if you take control of 2 of these take your place markers. At the end of the turn, you score 4 victory points instead if you control all 3 of these take your place markers. Very
interesting, weird kind of idea, isn't it?
it's very it does read very Harlequin.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really fluffy. Like it's definitely based around us. I don't know if I'm going to be choosing it too many times because is it? Am I wrong with this one? But I feel like I remember that in the Nachtmund now in the GT pack, it's like you have to take 2 of your secondaries from there.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So you can only have 1 from your book, and it's like if I can only choose 1 from my book, I'm going to be choosing a deadly performance probably every time.
Yeah,
that's probably going to be it. This one's kind of cool. I really like it. I think it's very like narrative, like and fun.
Yeah,
but I mean. I'm probably going to take a deadly performance.
Yeah, I'd only take this one to be pretentious, really, I think.
Yeah. It's just like, right, now. Yeah, and also, like, how long extra do we want to have of setup time now? That's the other thing. Yeah.
Okay, so the final one is Warpcraft, Weave Veil. If you select the secondary objective, then a Shadowseer model from your army can attempt the following psychic action as described in the Warhammer 40,000 core book. Weave Veil. One Shadowseer model from your army can attempt to perform this psychic action in your psychic phase if it is within 12 inches of an enemy unit that has not yet been veiled by your army. If this psychic action is successfully complete, select one enemy unit that has not been veiled by your army and is within 12 inches of the Shadowseer model that has completed this action. That enemy unit is said to have been veiled by your army, and the warp charge value of the psychic action is increased by 1 for your army for the remainder of the battle. Score 3 victory points each time a unit from your army completes the Weave Veil psychic action.
Yeah, the making it more difficult over time is the thing that kind of gets me a little bit because, again, sure you have to leave characters alive if you are going for something like mental interrogation, but I don't mind doing that so much with the things that we have in order to be able to turn off their auras and all sorts of other things where it's just like, you can stay alive, you just can't let anyone re-roll anything around you. And by the way, if you're shooting at me, your re-rolls don't work anyway against my bikes or my transporter. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's because it's more difficult. I'm like, I just don't trust my dice that much.
No, and it's starting off a warp charge 4, so by the time you get to 3, it's going to be 7. So, I agree with you. Like, with the Nakamon thing now, out of all these 3 you've got available, I think a deadly performance is the one that I'd go for.
It's the only one I've been taking, basically, so far. Honestly, I kind of almost forgot the other 2 existed because I'm just like, I'm going to take that one every time. There might be a situation where you might want to consider something else for, which one is it again? A deadly performance is for which category?
No Mercy, No Respite.
Yeah, No Mercy, No Respite. So if there is one in particular that you're going, oh, I know I can score that against the army, maybe you'd consider one of the others, but overall, it just plays into our playstyle anyway. So it just feels like, as we said before, it's just like, why wouldn't you take it?
Yeah, you know? It's called play the game, isn't it? Really, that one.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, play the game as you would as a Harlequins player and score points for it. Ooh, that sounds nice. Like, you can have your cake and eat it.
Absolutely. So there we go. That's what we're covering today.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to come back with a few more combos, different lists, different ideas as well. But also, I guess we also need to play test it a little bit as well. I mean, have you managed to get many games in recently, Wes?
Not since the books come out.
So
this week I'm actually going away for a week with some buddies, and we're going to a cottage, and we're just going to play games. So I will be getting lots of games in this week.
Yeah, I've got another one tomorrow, so we'll come back a little bit when we've also had time to think about some of these things as well. Again, though, we'd love to see your comments in the, below here as well, because then we can also bring those ones up and those combinations to help other players to start really thinking about how they're going to make those competitive lists that we'll see at the top of tournament tables soon. I think very soon.
Yeah, and I think go to your Facebook page as well, isn't it? To put stuff on there as well. It's probably a good point.
Yeah, Yeah, I haven't actually. I'll put it in the description again because I think I haven't actually put that one up in ages. So I'll put that one. I'll link that one down in the description. So if anyone does want to continue the conversation that Wes and I are having, we have it on the Facebook group all the time. Loads of really nice players, really nice community as well.
It's a really nice group, actually, isn't it? Like everyone's pretty solid and really keen, dedicated Harlequins players.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So if you want to continue the chat there, I'll put the link down below. For now, I think it's goodbye from me and
me, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, exactly. See you all soon. Okay. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.